Hi, this is Muchaneta from Fashnerd.com. I'm here at Munich Fabric Start's Keyhouse. I wanted to take somebody who was attending the Keyhouse and kind of get their opinion and thoughts behind the space. And I found
Claudia Szerakowski.
Claudia, who is going to basically tell me what she thinks about the Keyhouse. We're going to talk about what it is that she actually does, and it'd be quite interesting to know what kind of people the Keyhouse is attracting. So, Claudia, tell me a little bit about what you do.
I work for a company called Eco-Intelligent Growth. We are a circular economy consultancy based on the cradle-to-cradle principles. So we work a lot with the cradle-to-cradle certification and the Cradle-to-Cradle Products Innovation Institute in San Francisco. And I was giving a little talk as well as a woman in the denim industry about our work and our experiences in denim and fashion and sustainability.
So you're at the Blue Zone, which is across from the Keyhouse. And how are you finding the Keyhouse today? I mean, have you been speaking to the people that are exhibiting? I mean, what's your kind of initial feelings about the Keyhouse?
I really, really enjoy the Keyhouse. I think it's so interesting to see all the new innovations that are coming out, and I've definitely been really inspired by, the natural dyeing, for example, the conversations, the speech that you were a part of the panel, in addition to some other interesting speakers, and I think the conversation that was held yesterday was very interesting. I think in general, so working in sustainability, I'm really excited to see all the things that are coming out, and what I see is a little bit of a lack of connection. So, which is why I think your work is so important, and why I'm so grateful to be speaking, because there's so many cool things happening, but it's at events like these that we can connect and learn more and share our knowledge as well.
Talking about conversation, Claudia and I, at lunch, we sat down and started talking about sustainability. And we were talking about the panel that was on stage yesterday and kind of going back and forth with ideas. And there was a quote that you actually said. I mean, what was it? If you'd like to share that quote.
There were a couple. The one that's coming to my mind is that cradle to cradle is like the North Star of the certification of the fashion industry. A lot of the companies are aspiring to cradle because it's one of the most thorough and rigorous certifications. We look at so many different things. We look at the material health. So there's a lot of talk right now about circular economy, looping materials. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to be looping toxic materials. So cradle to cradle is a bit different in the sense that we look at the material health of the products as well as the cyclability. And the process. So was it made respecting the water so that the water is cleaner coming out than what's coming in, that it's made hopefully with renewable energy or at least carbon offset, and that the people are treated fairly. And I think that's kind of where we went into a nice other discussion.
We did,
yeah.
Yes. I mean, we were talking about the people who actually make the clothes, whether they be in Bangladesh or they be in China. And I know one of the topics on the panel was about bringing kind of manufacturing close to home. And then I kind of shared a concern with you saying that's all good and well, but what about the people, let's say, in Bangladesh? What are they going to do if we take away the kind of business? And even though some might argue that they're not treated properly or paid fairly, having a wage is better than no wage. And you actually shared some really good insights on that. I mean, would you like to tell the audience?
Absolutely. So we have to look at the type of jobs that are going out there. So, for example, like there's a lot of jobs, sewing the garments. But is that a good job? Is that a job that someone would want to have? In those conditions, and there's a lot of talk in the industry now about sexual harassment or so many other issues. So, and also how high paying are they? I mean, you have to look at the gender disparity as well. But I think one interesting topic that came from our discussion was what happens to those jobs, right? And I think what needs to happen is a little bit more creativity on the industry. So right now, Bangladesh has two industries: ship dismantling and fashion. And there's so much more potential. For example, they have beautiful wildlife. So kind of my vision for Bangladesh is, a sustainable tourism industry, for example. Obviously, that's the government's kind of role and responsibility, and there's some limitations there as well. But there's a lot more potential, and I think if we empowered them to kind of go from bottom up and to use their ideas, like we were also discussing what Michael said from the UN about in Kenya and in Africa, they're producing amazing sustainable materials out of banana leaves and cassava and all these things, and it's amazing to see that kind of innovation, and it's so different. It's one of the cradle to cradle principles is celebrating diversity. So maybe it's not exactly the same of how we see success in a developed industry or developed country, but it's their own type of success. And I think the same thing needs to be translated to these countries in Bangladesh and India and Vietnam, empowering them and celebrating them to come up with their own solutions and working with them, and not sort of this kind of translated colonialism in a form.
And so, as somebody who is attending the Keyhouse, how would you say, what are your takeaways from here? When you leave and walk out the door, what are you saying? Do you know what? I got this out of the Keyhouse. What would you say you got out of the Keyhouse today?
That's a great question. Definitely just a lot of connections. Between, like I mentioned, there's this natural, right here we have this natural dyeing project, which is so, like, how avocado turns a fabric pink? Who would have thought, So that was really exciting for me, especially because we're working on some exciting projects with Cradle to Cradle. And we need to, for example, one of the requirements for platinum level. So there's never been a platinum level certification. But because everything needs to be 100% rapidly renewable. Or, I'm blanking on the term now, but rapidly renewable or biodegradable, I believe, or recyclable. So, that's a solution. So right now, if a manufacturer wants to make a platinum textile, they cannot use any dyes. No dyes exist. So it would be amazing to use natural waste, agriculture waste, to dye these products and form kind of an industrial symbiosis. So that's one of my most exciting things. And also just getting to know all the people here and forming closer connections and spreading the message of sustainability in the fashion industry.
Well, thank you so much for finding a moment. I had to grab somebody who was attending the Keyhouse, because it's kind of nice to hear it from somebody who's come here for the first time or is a regular visitor. So thank you so much, Claudia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Continue enjoying the Keyhouse, and we will speak soon.